In the spring of 2011, DC Comics decided to do a line-wide relaunch slash revamp. The Kickstarter was the Flashpoint storyline in which the Flash runs back in time to save his mother from being killed. However, he inadvertently created a new universe. So in order to correct things, he runs back to stop himself from creating this world and ends up creating the New 52. During this relaunch, there were 52 new #1 titles created. You also had some older titles like Action Comics, Detective Comics, Wonder Woman, Flash, Justice League that were reset at #1. You also had new titles such as Static Shock, Grifter, Voodoo, and even different phases. But you had new titles that had new #1s. Batgirl had a new #1. Nightwing had a new #1. Batman the Dark Knight, a new title, had a new #1. So again, it was kind of convoluted for a lot of people. It was frustrating for some collectors, and it was exciting for others. DC Comics, in order to spark new interest and get new readers as well as old readers to return, this was their answer. So they were like, "Hey, let's just give them something for everybody." That didn't take well with everybody though, because histories were left out. Barbara Gordon was no longer paralyzed. She resumed her role as Batgirl. Superman and Lois weren't married. They were younger. Both of Superman's parents were dead. And then also you had certain histories like the death of Superman that still happened but didn't happen. Bane breaking Batman's back, which happened but didn't happen. Nightwing being Batman for a year, which happened but didn't happen. So the New 52, again, it was kind of convoluted for a lot of people. It did anger a whole lot of readers, both positive and, both old and new, I should say, instead of positive and negative. And it did have that positive and negative effect on people. For collectors, it was great. I mean, people everywhere you went, local comic book shops, places that sold comic books that weren't comic book shops, everybody was looking for New 52. New 52. You go to conventions, New 52. So it was the hottest thing out in 2011. However, it seemed that DC themselves weren't fans of everything they published. A lot of series only had very short runs, from Men of War to OMAC to Static Shock, Voodoo, Grifter. Some issues only ran like 8 issues, some ran 12, so you got a year out of it. But it wasn't, a whole run, I guess you could say. From fan favorite titles, man, like I said, Static Shock for one, 8 issues, and people, kind of tuned in for it. They were excited about it, but when they read it, it was just like the writing was off. And I'm not trying to, diss the New 52 because I was a big fan of it, as you can see from my shirt. But it was just something was just off about it. You couldn't really get anything just, congruent and gelled together. So a lot of series did fall by the wayside. You just got some series that, like I said, were short runs, canceled after 8 issues, some canceled after 12 issues. I don't think many of them made it past, 12, 14, or 20. Again, good titles, just not a lot put into them. Going into the first year, DC had 4 or 5 canceled titles. The second year, they had the same. The third year was about 5. So you ended up with at least 15 canceled series within 3 years. Titles like Frankenstein, Resurrection Man, again, like I said, Voodoo, Grifter, Black Hawks, Hawk and Dove, Deathstroke, a lot of popular titles, and even characters that people didn't know but were getting shine, they just, axed it. So it was hard to be able to collect these because of Hawkman being another, Savage Hawkman was another one. So it was hard to collect these titles because, again, you didn't know if they were going to be runs or short-lived or miniseries or what. DC also took on a different direction in the role of monthly themes and even seasonal themes, I should say. We had the Zero Month, which happened midways, well, not midways through, after the first year of the New 52. I think 13 issues in, and then they started over with Zero, which were origin stories. And again, just like I said a little while ago, the origins were different. Some of them got changed from what we grew up on, what we know. Yes, Superman still came from Krypton, and Batman's parents were still murdered in Crime Alley. But you had a lot of different origins that were retconned too. Again, this added to the confusion of what was concrete, what was history, and what is not. It was just very fluid, I guess you could say. It didn't really flow. It just, everybody was kind of up in arms, like, where is this going? But the Zero Month was pretty cool. You had, like I said, started out with number zeros. They were origin stories. So you got a different retelling, a different spin, if you will, on some of the origins of the characters. Then the second year, you got the Villains Month / Forever Evil storyline. This was a personal favorite of mine in that the villains became the heroes of Earth Prime, I guess, or Earth One. The villains, the crime syndicate, took over and enslaved and basically, killed the Justice League. They were nowhere to be found on Earth. So the villains banded together. You had Lex Luthor, Catwoman. I don't think Brainiac was on the team. Catwoman, Sinestro. You had a lot of the main villains in DC that banded together and were just like, look, we're trying to take over the Earth, but this is our Earth. Y'all take over y'all's own Earth, but we will fight you for our Earth. In the process, a lot of villains did become heroes to switch to the good side. Spoiler alert, they kind of switched back to the to the dark side, but it was pretty cool. Not that dark side. But you did have a lot of heroes, or I mean a lot of villains who acted heroically. The Villains Month, you also had different villains that were on the cover of different titles. Black Manta was on Aquaman. Grodd was on The Flash. Darkseid was on Justice League. Lex Luthor on Action Comics. Brainiac on Superman. Joker on Batman. Harley Quinn on Detective Comics. So you had stuff going like that. They had lenticular 3D back and forward titles, and you also 3D hologram titles, not back and forward hologram titles. You also had the regular covers that you could buy as well. So these were real popular in that a lot of villains are real popular amongst collectors and amongst fellow geeks like myself and like you too. There was also a Multiversity line that really tied up loose ends between the pre-52 and the Final Crisis storylines in the New 52. Multiversity showed a lot of different Earths, 52 different Earths in the DC world, or the DC universe, I should say. I didn't really collect or check out the Multiversity as much. I got a couple of issues, but it was an 8-issue limited series, and they had different books as well, showcasing, like I said, different versions of different characters. So a lot of people got the introduction to Earth 23, Superman, Calvin Ellis, who is, like me, Black Superman, but unlike me, he's the president of the United States. I'm just a regular dude, I vote. So, but it was pretty cool. I kind of, like I said, I just kind of shied away from it. Because, again, while it was great, New 52 was great, it was just so much being thrown at collectors, at readers, at the consumer in general. So a lot of times, people just couldn't keep up. Then you have the Convergence storyline, in which Brainiac collects cities from different continuities and places them outside of their known time and space. You also had what was it? Not Future State, World's End, and hold on. Sorry about that. World's End and Future's End is what I was trying to say. So Future's End was a weekly title. It was 52 issues, so 52 weeks in a year. Again, weekly. Um, and it showcased a different future for the DC universe at that point in time. Heroes and villains were split, and kind of like the Injustice game, they kind of banded together. Some of them formed their own factions and their own cliques and fought against some of the others. Superman was nowhere to be found, so Shazam took his place as Superman. Green Arrow basically became a martyr before being murdered, and so you had like I said, you had Brainiac doing this. If you get the title, it is an omnibus, a big, very big book called Futures End. Read it. It was pretty good. I got like I said, all 52 issues. The World's End storyline I didn't collect. The Convergence I didn't collect, but Convergence brought every continuity into one. Convergence was confusing. Let's just say. I mean, it really was. So if any of y'all feel different about it, leave a comment. Let me know what you thought of Convergence, and we'll discuss it. I mean, hey, that's just my point of view. You might have a different point of view, and I welcome everybody's different points of view. After a quick wardrobe change, I'm back. Now I want to talk about the end of the New 52. New 52 ended in February 2015 in that the tag, the New 52, no longer appeared on DC Books. It was replaced by DC YOU, DCU, which eventually morphed into DC Universe. The official end of the New 52 came in May 2015 with the, what was it called? Not the Death of Superman. It was the final days of Superman, in which the New 52 Superman was killed off. So the New 52 started with the Flash, ended with Superman. He had lost his power, got some kryptonite radiation where he was no longer vulnerable to kryptonite, but his solar cells start to, erupt, and you could see him basically starting to die. He was turning green instead of pale. So he eventually imploded, and all of his power just went, kind of elsewhere. Again, the official end of the New 52 happened in May 2015, and it was replaced by Rebirth, which established the world before the New 52. So a lot of things were added in. You did see Superman again, but it was Superman from the pre 52, whom had Lois and now his son, John. Overall, the sales for the New 52 were pretty darn good, especially when it first started. Justice League #1, which sold upwards or pre-sold upwards to 200,000 copies, was sent back for 4 more printings, which end up being 6. I have a few of them myself. Um, Great book, great origin, great way to start this new world. Again, with it being new, sales were going up. Stores couldn't hardly keep stuff in. Uh, Different #1s went to second and third printings because people bought so many of them. However, they did not stay on the up and up. Um, Titles sales were going up and down, as well as how do I want to say this? Interest, I guess you could say. New titles coming out, yes, people did buy them, but they quickly lost interest. A lot of the reasons why were editorial reasons. Things just weren't consistent. You had a lot of storylines that were not finished, storylines that were rushed, and some stories that just took too long to get out. Another criticism on titles were, again, the inconsistency. Um, Kara, what's her name? Karina Lawson of Wired said that from a reader standpoint, it was a success. It was a failure, but from a business standpoint, it was a success. I guess that depends on the reader, who is reading it, and what you were reading. If you were a classic Justice League, Batman, Flash, Superman, Wonder Woman, Aquaman, Green Lantern, Shazam type I guess, fan, you enjoyed some of them titles. Okay, maybe not. Superman was kind of convoluted in that at one point in his storyline, he fought a villain that even he couldn't see. So they were kind of struggling for ideas. Um, the adult themes with the sex scene with Catwoman and Batman and Starfire kind of being promiscuous turned off a lot of readers. They were like, this isn't what I grew up on. But again, comics are really not for kids anymore, unlike, 50 years ago. Female writers dropped from 12 to 1%. A lot of the characters were over sexualized. So, again, this was another criticism in that the females, whether it's the female character or the female writer, were not represented and not given their due respect. Um, Voodoo, like I said, it was came over from the Image and Wildstorm storyline. So she kind of stayed the same, but at the same point in time, a lot of people felt she was over sexualized too, being an alien stripper, I guess you could say. A lot of editorial changes happened. You would have writing and creative teams from that would start an issue or start a series that would not be there within 4 or 5 issues. So it was like they were there only to tell their story arc and then they were gone. You had a lot of changes, a lot of stories that were canceled, a lot of ideas that didn't even make the cutting room floor. And that frustrated a lot of people. And I'm not going to say even just from a reader standpoint, that frustrated a lot of people, even within DC itself. So it was hard to really balance that. It was hard to get storylines, good stories out that people would appreciate. And a lot of people were clamoring for what they had before the new 52 started. Let's go back. Let's do this. Let's do that. I want to see, my Batman is Bruce Wayne again. I want to see Superman entice again. I want to see, Wonder Woman be Wonder Woman again. Her title was one of the few ones that actually earned an award for being great, for the writing being good. It was really, really good. And then there's, other characters like Flash. Green Lantern had a hard time. Hal Jordan struggled being Green Lantern again, with Sinestro still being there. So a lot of people were just put off by a lot of the new ideas because they were so out there. And I get it. And a lot of times, too, on the flip side, you have to give new ideas a chance. But it's up to, I guess, the creative teams and the editorial editors to find a healthy balance. Being able to put out new stories that people would love and people would accept, and at the same time be like, look, this is a slow build. Just build with us and let us entertain you. Just watch it, read it, watch it, and see where it goes to. So my personal analysis on New 52, I thought it was great. It was definitely needed. It was the shot in the arm that DC was looking for. It just wasn't sustainable, I guess you could say. A lot of people were put off by a lot of the stories and a lot of the continuities, and like I said earlier, just a little while ago, the editorial process not staying consistent. So the inconsistency was really what led to his downfall. Also, at the same point in time, from a good friend of mine and a good source, the New 52 was started because DC and the Siegel and Schuster families were warring over the rights to Superman. DC didn't want to reward them. They didn't want to pay him. They wanted their Superman, and they wanted Superman, and the Schuster and Siegel estates would not release it, or vice versa. So either way it go, DC basically did the New 52 to create their own Superman. Once they got the rights back to Superman, or they settled the suit with Superman, with the Schuster and Siegel families, they did away with their Superman and brought back the original. So yeah, you heard it here. If you did not know that, now you know. I'm not getting in trouble for that. I will shoot you with the green arrow if you come after me. But like I said, my personal analysis was I did think it was great. It was needed. It did bring a lot of new readers to not only DC Comics, but comics in general. Because people branched off from just, one character to different characters to different companies now. So it was great. I really enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed it. And again, let me know what you think about this video. I got two friends of mine, my main man Cooks24 and my other main man Marvelous Muncie. We're gonna do a roundtable discussion sometime on the new 52, and Muncie's gonna tell us how it was for him from a store owner point of view. I thank y'all for watching this. It was a long time in coming and putting it together. So I hope you enjoyed it. Give me a thumbs up, share it, leave a comment. Let me know what you think about it. And as my closeout line always goes, never judge a book by its cover unless it's a comic book. Oh, remember to follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Spadeonomics Comics. Follow my homeboys, Cooks24, 6 Element Comics, Marvelous Muncie, Cream and Cash Comics, Carlos CJD, OG Green Lantern. There are others that I did not name, only for time constraints, and plus, not much up here, so I forget. But I thank y'all for tuning in. I hope everybody's having a good time. Support your local comic shop. Support your local comic book convention. Support your distant comic book convention if you can. Let's get this thing popping. Tell others about it, and let's keep this comic book community thing going. So thank everyone for watching. Hope you all have a good time.